Fluffy Emotion brings us, the food you enjoy eating is the healthiest choice for you. Holly Ann replies, I watched a show about a woman who ate car tires. Pretty sure that is what she said, too. Lisa Daisy brings us, Christianity is fat-phobic? Sputnik replies, I assume it's because gluttony is a deadly sin. Handsome Slav. Also, there's fasting in Christianity. I don't know about Catholics, but here in Slavic countries, Orthodox Christians fast regularly. From Storyhood. Where are the fat people in sports? Why are they keeping fat athletes off TV? Inside Sympathy replies, there was a woman who was in my row on an airplane recently, while the Olympics was still going, who was saying stuff like this. The woman who was in the middle seat made the mistake of engaging with her, and what followed was basically FatLogic bingo, and it's amazing to me that there are people out there who think that they could be in the Olympics if they were more conventionally attractive. Another Richard brings us. This is from the Fat Doctor UK. Warning, do not compare fat folks to anti-vaxxers. Stop suggesting we are both a drain on resources and are taking up hospital beds. That's such a false equivalency. Fat people do not choose to be fat, nor can we do something to prevent us from getting sick. Little tidbit about the Fat Doctor UK, in case you didn't know. She was actually able to lose weight, but apparently she did it in a bad way because she felt depressed when she did it, so she decided to become a fat activist. Real Daniel Latte replies, I am fat. I chose to stuff myself for years with unhealthy food. Seeing stuff like this makes me pretty mad, to be honest. There is no accountability for their poor life decisions. Blame it all on society and fat phobia. It's telling that most of the fat activists are in their 20s. You are not hearing a 60-year-old woman with diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, double knee surgery, and a hip replacement talk about fat acceptance. Sorry for the rant. Countless Chocula brings us, diet culture claims that eating sugar supposedly increases the risk of developing diabetes, but that's just not borne out by strong evidence. Doomsday replies, don't compare us to anti-vaxxers, that's so bigoted. But also, nearly every single doctor and biologist on the entire planet is being paid off by Big Small to deny HAES. Toasty Tomato Sauce brings us, Yale Guten tweeted, there is no health condition that only affects people in larger bodies. It's the added cost of weight stigma and medical discrimination that often worsens the conditions they do experience, which is then simply blamed on their weight. The system is fudged. Bluetarg replies, oh well, if there's no such health condition, then clearly there's nothing wrong with being overweight. Excuse me, being in a larger body. From Equivalent Island. Okay, hear me out. Doctors with BMI restrictions shouldn't operate on fat people, because they clearly don't have the skills to do so. Wild Aphrodite. That's what they've been trying to tell you. It's incredibly difficult to operate on someone with an extremely high BMI. Medically speaking, we just don't have what we need for those operations to be safe. Would you rather a doctor tell you to lose some weight, or perform a surgery they know is far more likely to be deadly for you than successful? Dill Pickle Boy brings us. This is from Virgie Tovar. At some point I realized that believing dieting was going to turn me, a naturally fat person, into a thin person was like believing that dyeing my hair blonde was going to turn me into a blonde person. That's just not how that stuff works. Hagglepoise replies, it does turn you into a blonde person. What it doesn't turn you into is a naturally blonde person. So yeah, I guess if you want to claim that dieting turns you into a thin person, but not a naturally thin person, go for it. For thinness, I can't really see how that distinction could be meaningful. But as long as you're reducing your health risks by reversing your obesity, then I don't think it matters how you describe it. Hunchinko brings us more tidbits from Virgie Tovar. I opened an email entitled The Impact of Menopause on Plus-Sized Women. I was hoping to hear about how science has learned that love handles make menopause easier, or how it turns out my affection for cookies will be useful when I go through menopause. Instead, the email laid out in brutal, bulleted listicle exactly how menopause itself is not only terrible, but is far worse if you're fat. How it landed. This list made me realize why they call those dots bullets. Messaging that uses science to fearmonger about natural processes of the body, for example menopause, are unethical. And I am skeptical of the methods used in science when that science only confirms bigoted attitudes. How I recovered. I replied. I wrote, "Hi, name redacted. This information only confirms weight bias, deepens weight stigma, and further pathologizes plus-sized women and, frankly, menopausal women. I hope this company will course-correct its messaging." Kai the Devourer replied, "Science isn't confirming bigoted attitudes. It's relaying the findings of many studies. Just because you and your movement have decided that facts are bigoted does not make it so. She needs to go back to elementary science class and, while she's at it, get a lesson in language arts too. Words have meanings. You shouldn't throw around words like bigoted. Virgie literally wants to live in a hug box where people tell her what she wants to hear. She admitted that she went into the article not with an open mind that was willing to learn more, but with an expectation that the findings would confirm her worldview. Virgie should know how intellectually dishonest she is being, but who am I kidding? She doesn't care. Her followers will not be questioning this." Always Be Knitting brings us. It's a Venn diagram. One circle is grind culture and one circle is diet culture. They have a pretty big overlap. The overlap between the two circles is this. Rest equals lazy. I guess so. Born out of fear. I'm pretty sure grind culture is born out of the desire for more cash. Relies on willpower myth. Not a myth. Puts money into industries that profit off our insecurities. I thought grind culture put money into your own pocket. Isn't that the purpose? Encourages hierarchy. I don't think that works for diet or grind culture. No excuses. That's true, both are like that. Based on white supremacy. I don't see it for either one, sorry. The faster, the better. That's fair. Thrives on comparison. I think grind culture is all about making money, not comparison, but whatever. Red replies, thrives on comparison while making a Venn diagram. From The Hamster. The Today Show published a video, I guess, about new paper shows overeating does not drive obesity. Melancholy Story replies, I keep seeing this. I read the study. It says what we already know, that eating highly processed carbs creates a blood sugar spike, which in turn leads people to become hungry sooner and eat more. So, calories in, calories out. And now put something on your forehead to protect yourself from slapping it too hard. We have Reagan Chastain. The weight loss industry makes billions based on their commitment to never let the truth get in the way of a good marketing campaign. Ironic. Another one. If you're watching The Voice or AGT and you're surprised when a fat person is a great singer or dancer, that's fat phobia. This one's a little strange to me. I thought the stereotype, if there is a stereotype, is that larger people are better singers. And I thought the reasoning behind it, whether or not it's true, is that your chest resonates better. Okay, one more Reagan. Every day, fat people are denied surgeries they need for quality of life with the excuse that their BMI is too high. Yet every day, fat people are encouraged, even bullied, to get their healthy digestive system surgically altered into a disease state through weight loss surgeries. This kind of weight stigma in healthcare harms and kills fat people. Now, I'm pretty sure Reagan does not understand risk. They don't do certain surgeries when the BMI is too high because the risk of killing the patient is too high. Sometimes, but not always, they're willing to do weight loss surgery operations on people because the risk of them dying from fat problems is actually larger than the risk of dying due to the surgery. But even with weight loss surgery, there's often a weight limit, so I don't really get where she's going with this. From The Shadow of a Fool. Watched Winnie the Pooh last night for the first time, and was unironically like, Pooh is years ahead of the rabbit in terms of his analysis on health and bodies, and the social construct of disability. Like, Pooh is like, yeah, I'm fat and happy about it, when he can't fit through the rabbit's doorway. The rabbit is like, you shouldn't eat so much, and Pooh is like, no, you need a bigger doorway. And I was like, that's right. Like, bodies aren't the problem. Eating and enjoying food isn't the problem. It's the way infrastructure is made to not accommodate a diversity of body that is like, get on his level, rabbit. He does realize the story is that Pooh goes into the house, eats so much that he can't get back out. If that's not an example of gluttony, I don't know what is. Lodiodides brings us. You two are having the most fat-phobic conversation on a post about how the diet industry is BS and the obesity epidemic isn't actually real. Please stop with your pro-diet, very, very skewed idea on weight. This rhetoric is super violent. Stop promoting weight loss here. Someone replies, and do you think the fast food industry isn't spending billions keeping you addicted to their low-quality processed food? Losing weight and wanting to lose weight for your health is not violent. We're not telling you how to exist in your body. Don't tell us how to exist in ours. Diabesity Monster replies, I love how they've redefined violence to mean, reminds me of my personal failures. Beyond Che brings us, first we decided that being fat was bad. Then we started doing studies to prove that fat was bad. It started with the BMI, a completely useless measurement that literally looks at the ratio of height and weight. It was never meant to be used the way it is today. Don't some people load Doom onto their graphing calculator and play Doom on the graphing calculator, even though it was in no way meant to play Doom? Anyway, let's continue. We grouped people into normal and abnormal. We assigned them a BMI range. And then we set about proving why abnormal people were bad and normal folks were good. Ironically, recent studies show that a BMI of 25 to 30 is actually healthiest, so abnormal is better than normal. Countless Chocula replies, the BMI is useless until I can use it in an argument. Ha! Gotcha! Just as the fitness of the obese is goosed up by bodybuilders and athletes with big muscles and dense bones, the fitness of the underweight is depressed by cancer patients, the elderly, etc. And I think in the particular study they're referring to, smokers. It's a bit of an old study. From Lisa Daisy. Apple Watch and closing your rings. Everything counts. Playing chase with your kids. Up to 375 calories an hour. On Apple's website, they advertise Apple Watch with images like this showing how everything counts. Everything being movement and counts referring to burning calories. It then shows examples of different activities from biking to work, chasing your kids, gardening, dancing at a concert, etc., and how many calories it burns per hour. That all sounds pretty reasonable to me, but you know they're going to complain about it. While tracking or knowing how many calories activities throughout the day is not in and of itself a bad thing, this marketing overemphasizes using the watch to see value in these activities proportional to the amount of calories that are burned, to keep track of these activities and reduce all kinds of movement to a number, which, since we live in a diet culture, fat-phobic society that lacks nuance around topics like nutrition, body image, health, weight, and exercise, reinforces black and white and oversimplified metrics of health. New Name replies, yes, HAES crowd, the masters of nuanced looks on subjects like nutrition, nourish your tum-tum, body image, body positivity is only for fat people, health, you can be healthy at any size, unless you're too thin, exercise, joyful movement. Countess Chocula brings us, a reminder, even if you don't find being weighed at the doctor's office super activating, it can be a good practice to decline the weigh-ins anyway. Doing so helps to normalize it for medical professionals, which can also lead to decreased pushback for folks in marginalized bodies who do not want to be weighed. It's Taco Oclaco replies, yes, please, no one in healthcare is working hard enough. Doctors and nurses have zero work ethic. They just messed around all through school. We all have so much staff that we would love it if you made our jobs harder. We don't get enough of that. Which hour is Taco Oclaco anyway? Interaction Anxious brings us, we accept height diversity, so why can't we accept weight diversity? Claritus Lucis replies, if only I could eat my way to 6 feet high. Just let me pick ads. You can, not 6 feet tall, but you can absolutely eat yourself to 6 feet something, like wide or underground. Now Go Away brings us. This is from an article in 538. I think I've referenced parts of it before. BMI doesn't tell the whole story. This graphic shows that underweight people are 75% chance to being healthy. Normal weight people are only like 70. And by the time you get obese, 15% have a chance to being healthy still. I did look at the article. The article is arguing, despite presenting this graph, that BMI has nothing to do with health. No usernames left replies, I just have to comment on the underweight category being the healthiest. This chart is a little misleading in the language because the study was on metabolic health only. The other health metrics used were measures of blood pressure, triglycerides, insulin resistance, cholesterol, and an inflammation marker, C-reactive protein. So that explains why the underweight category is most likely to be healthy. It just means those people are metabolically healthy. And while a BMI of 18 is probably fine, you could be dangerously underweight and not be considered unhealthy in this particular study. From someone who is there. Somebody writes somewhere on the internet, "Bicycling is a great transportation alternative exclusively possible for the thin and able-bodied, and I would just really appreciate it if the advocates acknowledge that in their self-righteousness, even a little bit." They reply to themselves, "Okay, I was being hyperbolic with the exclusive, and clearly this is not the case. There are certainly fat or disabled cyclists. This does not negate the undertones of this rhetoric, which largely mimics others that imagine public life as the domain of the thin and non-disabled." Pretty much Ron Swanson replies, "Wait, I thought fat people were just as healthy as us. You're saying there are things that healthy people can do that fat people can't? Strange." From Moon. A diet culture kid says, "My body and other bodies can and should conform to the thin ideal through restriction." The diet-free kid says, "My body is good no matter what its size, and I can choose a variety of foods to fuel it well." The anti-diet kid says, "A system of weight-based oppression rooted in racism and patriarchy is unjust. All bodies are good bodies, and all bodies deserve respect and care." Right count adds. Fourth kid says, "We eat lots of fruits and vegetables. I help cook. Sometimes we eat treats, we play outside, we go hiking on weekends. And my screen time is limited to a couple hours a day. I don't worry about my weight." From Weepsicle. "Did it hurt when you realized every diet you ever went on likely slowed your metabolism and increased your body's natural set point weight range, making you gain more weight than you ever lost while on those diets?" Bread Thanos replies, "Did it hurt when you realized the HIES and FA death cult lied to you about slowing metabolisms and set points? That it's actually your overconsumption of calories that made you obese? That all of those fad diets are just there to make money, and you need to figure out your own diet for yourself? Hashtag riots, not diets." I'm feeling cheeky today. Brought to us by Impressionistic Mania. Sophie Hagen tweets, "Diets are a cure that don't work for a disease that doesn't exist was one of the slogans said by the first fat activism movements in the 60s. This is not new information." Kai the Devourer replies, "How are the fat activists of the 1960s doing now? I know those who are alive are all probably in their 70s or 80s. This is a genuine question. I'm not being snarky. But seriously, are they healthy? I'm skeptical." From Equivalent Island. Somebody made an infographic, 8 ways to prevent obesity, and somebody edited it. It used to say, avoid excess, maintain a healthy diet, exercise daily, and avoid watching TV while eating. And all of that's crossed out, and someone writes, the only way to currently prevent obesity is to avoid being born. Nick Ad replies, yet somehow billions of people around the world manage to be born and avoid obesity. It's nothing short of miraculous. Beyond Che brings us, just dropping in to remind everyone that obesity is a social construct. It only exists because we say it exists, and whilst it's being used to oppress and abuse millions of people, it actually means very little to your health and well-being. True story. Pecan Spinwheel replies, I mean, all words exist and have meaning because we say they do. Purple Drape Sea brings us a post that the mods at FatLogic did not like. I'm just going to put this out there. I love being fat. I love never having to worry about what I eat. I love not having to conform to society's beauty standards. I love that I will never have to go on a diet again because they are boring and make me miserable. And if that means I'm not going to live as long as a thin person, I'm okay with that. I'm just going to enjoy the heck out of what life I have left, eat as much cake as I like, and not worry about tomorrow. And if and when I do get sick, the NHS can take care of me. I pay my taxes. Potato Trisp replies, I watched this amazing TikTok of a woman with skin cancer who loved tanning when she was younger. She showed all these photos of her young and in the sun. Then she said something that really stuck with me. It was along the lines of, risky behavior doesn't make your life shorter. it attacks you in the middle. And then she showed images of what the cancer has done to her face. It really made me think about all the obese young people in my family and how it may not be hurting them now, but it's going to be hurting them when they're 40, 50, 60. From Lisa Daisy. In accepting and embracing my fat body, I have transformed myself from a self-hating, drinking, smoking, fear-driven, binging shameball into a happy human who can sit in a mountain pose till the cows come home and bliss out in the present moment. So, you may ask, my advice? Get fat. I promote being fat, yes, I do. Nietzsche. Mountain pose is a standing pose, not a seated pose. From Link Talk New. It's an infographic. Why BMI is a bunch of BS. Moving target. Doesn't account for age, gender, and racial differences. Now with Real Ginger asks, how is BMI a moving target? It's a ratio of weight and height. Walker in Darkness replies, because I've done more research recently to account for things like race and gender, and to do better at the extreme ends of the height range, and this has changed the math, and thus the math has moved and can be dismissed. Even though in the same breath they'll argue that we should ignore it because it's all old data. My favorite part of this infographic, though, is when they say you should ignore BMI because it was developed by a statistician, despite the fact that it's a statistic. Aunt Yan brings us, you cannot be addicted to sugar the way you cannot be addicted to air. Sugar in any form provides us fuel for the necessary functions needed to stay alive. If our body feels in danger, it can crave more as a safety measure. The body is smart. Devadander replies, the body is not smart. It's incredibly dumb. It's built to fear starvation that almost none of us will ever experience. Wheezy Runner brings us, my eldest daughter is a prime example of this. Was an athlete all through high school. Still has six-pack abs even, lol. But her BMI is considered obese. Shrug. Huckster replies, I'm not a father yet, but if I ever have a daughter with a 30-plus BMI and a six-pack, I will be extremely concerned and not lolling. Either she has an exceedingly rare medical condition, or she's taking an exceedingly large quantity of juicy vitamins, like Dallas McCarver. And I don't want to have to hear an autopsy for my daughter as horrific as the one that Dallas McCarver's family had to. Sinas brings us, fat phobia in action. A person A who's at a healthy weight, doesn't obsessively exercise, doesn't diet, allows body to simply exist as is. You're so lucky. Person B, a person who's clearly obese, doesn't obsessively exercise, doesn't diet, allows body to simply exist as is. You're so lazy. Velcro Flamingo replies, I wish the people that say this type of stuff would track calories for just one day and realize how much they're actually eating. Frumious Winter adds, it would have to be a doubly labeled water study. Otherwise they'd log a black coffee and a salad, when really they had a giant Starbucks milkshake, a cup of salad dressing, a liter of soda, and a few handfuls of chips. Moon brings us another infographic. I'm gonna ignore the hunger and cravings. I'm on a diet. Your body, oh no, it's a famine. We have to survive. Stores all the energy it gets, slows down metabolism, increases hunger cues, reduces peripheral blood circulation. Max Vanticio replies, if our brains considered going a few hours without food as a famine, then every human in history would have been overweight or obese. I'm pretty sure our ancestors did not eat 3 meals a day plus snacks. What the fudge should I be called? Adds, I don't eat enough. If any of what FAs say is true, I should be 600 pounds by now. But guess what? I'm not, because that's not how weight works. When I eat more calories, I gain weight. What a wild concept. Elmir 2000 brings us, true, 1 pound of fat contains 3,500 calories. False, a 3,500 calorie deficit results in 1 pound of fat loss. Human metabolism is vastly complex. The common fitness trope that a deficit of 3,500 calories will result in 1 pound of fat loss is simply false. Metabolism changes every minute of every hour of every day. Irrelevant. Human bodies are designed to adjust to changes in calorie intake. They only do it a little bit. and it's pretty much impossible to accurately track calorie intake and expenditure. Well, that's irrelevant because we're talking about a 3,500 calorie deficit, not a 3,500 calorie I thought I was in a deficit. So how are you even measuring that 3,500 calories anyway? Man, that was quite the list of excuses. Beyond Che brings us.
I don't believe in the concept of obesity. The word literally means to be fat. It's only recently that we medicalized fatness, which is kind of weird when you think about it. We didn't medicalize shortness or baldness, both of which are associated with heart disease, by the way. Why fatness? The answer is Western society's deeply ingrained hatred of black people.
What?
Please read Fearing the Black Body.
Nah.
I think it's really important to understand the timeline here.
Roadless Soul replies, as a short, middle-aged person, I feel comfortable saying shortness is medicalized to an extent. My doc has warned me that I fit the exact profile to be high-risk osteoporosis. A petite woman of European ancestry and family history with both my grandmothers seems to bear that out. My doctor's guidance, watch my diet and be consistent about doing weight-bearing exercises. Should I cry about discrimination and throw up my hands and say there's nothing I can do because I was born this way? Or should I recognize that I have risk factors that are beyond my control, but I can still modify my behavior to mitigate the risk? After seeing how painful my grandma's spinal compression fractures were at the end of her life, I think I'll follow my doctor's advice. Baller B brings us. I don't consider a diet to have worked if you have to stay on that diet for your entire life, also known as eating under your caloric needs every day. Countess Chocula. I think when they said caloric needs, they meant to write wants. Punk Butt Loser brings us another post from a delusional man.
Fair enough. Healthy range for a man of my height, 5'11", is supposed to be 155 pounds to 189 pounds. I'm overweight right now, 225 pounds, but if I were to be at 0% body fat, then I would weigh 185 as of last week, when I got my body fat tested as part of a full physical. I have been at between 170 and 195 pounds of lean mass for my entire adult life. For reference, I'm 37. 10% body fat represents a person who is quite fit, and for me that would mean weighing about 203 pounds, which is a full 14 pounds over the maximum range prescribed. I do have a naturally broad frame for my height and gain and maintain muscle very easily, but that is a big difference we're talking about, and it checks out. At anything under 205 pounds, I look quite fit by anybody's standard. I do not think that I am extremely exceptional. I have never been a pro athlete. I just lift weights several days each week, and when my diet is consistent, I look fit, and when it isn't, then I carry around some extra weight.
Curious Chemicals replies, 1. You're a man. You're more likely to have some leeway in the overweight, not obese range, and everybody knows that. 2. When you propose hypothetical weight loss, be sure to take off 1/4 of the lost weight in lean mass, because there's interstitial water retention and connective tissue that will be trimmed even if you lose no muscle. Based on your numbers, that brings you to 171 pounds for 0% body fat, rather than 185. And that's assuming his initial body fat percentage was actually accurate. Countess Chocula brings us. It looks like it must be a Virgie Tovar post. My poor eyes. Your body doesn't see good food, bad food, healthy food, unhealthy food, clean food, junk food. Your body just sees some sort of mixture of molecules, broken down versions of carb, protein, and fats. Your body doesn't label foods like we have been taught to. Betta replies, my eyes see the food. Oh, I can't see anything after that post, though. My brain knows the caloric nutrient info of these foods and labels them either healthy or unhealthy. My gut bacteria really hate it when I eat junk food and make their unhappiness known by giving me gas, bloating, gurgles, and bad poops. I think my body knows the difference and clearly prefers healthier foods. Baby It's Gay Outside brings us. Somebody made an infographic. Being fat does not cause knee pain.
But I gained 2 stone over the pandemic and now my joints ache.
Somebody asks in the comment section. I'll probably be hated for this comment, but it comes from a place of pure asking. People who are 600 pounds who struggle to walk, is that not a result of their weight? Why is it always 600 pounds? Why not 500 or 700? People always say 600 pounds, and I don't understand why. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, do you know why that person weighs 600 pounds? Do you know their background? Their genetic makeup? Their childhood experiences? Was that person violated at any stage in their life? Have they been on countless diets? What medication are they on? I can go on and on and on, but you get my drift. No one knows why that person weighs 600 pounds and why that person struggles to walk. But once again, we cannot say that one is a result of the other. We also do not know which came first. Finally, let's stop trying to draw a line in the sand. Let's stop trying to look for an acceptable fat and an unacceptable fat. It doesn't work that way. I had the same argument with my husband, and it continues. Dusty Jazz replies, we're not saying that 600 pounds is a magical cutoff, where knee pain starts. They likely just chose that number due to the TV show called 600 Pound Life. But why do people struggle more to walk the higher they weigh? Answer that question. I have the answer. It's because a pound of fat weighs 1 pound. And an extra 400 pounds weighs 400 pounds. Can you imagine deadlifting that? Then carrying it for the entire day? You wouldn't be able to walk well. Now, would you? I'm not even sure I could pick it up. Moon brings us.
Signs you're dieting and don't know it. I can have a sandwich, but only half. I'm hungry, but it's too soon to eat. I overate yesterday. I should eat less today. I want ice cream, but it's too high in sugar.
What I don't get about this particular infographic is they're trying to make it look bad, but all those things sounded pretty reasonable. From World's Best Lasagna.
It's okay to eat foods labeled as treats all of the time.
Book Hermit replies, there's no dessert police that will arrest you when you make a pumpkin pie on a Wednesday night in March. Nobody's keeping track of how many orders of french fries and onion rings you ate to tell you that you've met your limit for the week, but the body keeps score. Yes, you can eat treats all the time at every meal or every day. You can eat heavy, sugary stuff so often it's no longer a special treat. You are an adult and allowed to do that, but do you want to? Brought to us by Fluffy Emotion. Currently, the only methods we have to lose weight sustainably for the long term have a 98% failure rate. So even if you are positive that someone could benefit physically from shrinking their body, we don't have a way to actually shrink their body for more than a year or two. Book Hermit replies, weight loss attempts included in the 98% figure.
I'm going to skip breakfast to lose weight.
Then eat an extra sandwich at lunch every day.
I can eat all the sausage, bacon, cheese, and butter I want on the keto diet. No fruit for me.
Never touches a vegetable.
I'm going to go vegan.
Swaps frozen chicken nuggets for soy version while continuously mainlining cola.
I eat 1 meal a day.
That one meal, always a feast. Mastermind also replies, the body doesn't shrink, only the adipose tissue. They say it like you're going to become a gnome from dieting. Equivalent Island brings us. Clothing being flattering is a term that is wrapped up in fat phobia and body shaming. Read that again. Coog DLT replies, even for very fit people, there are clothes that are or are not flattering. It's About Sanity brings us. Well, it turns out fat activists are trying to absorb the autism community into their goofy butt victim rhetoric, as well as a number of other unrelated groups. But this entire rabbit hole is truly on some next-level dumb butt stuff. I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm autistic myself, and for starters, I am not a victim, and I try to keep things as impersonal as possible, but for real. Fudge any fat activist who thinks autistic people want to be shoehorned into your lame cult of unrealistically forced altruism. Second, my holistic health is, unironically, my biggest life priority, because I have been obese before and I was extremely unhealthy. I came from a family of fat people, and I have seen people's health decline rapidly as a result of their weight. Even so, being exposed to the hive mind of online fat activism was actually the primary reason why I realized just how unhealthy it is to be so overweight. Mostly it makes you very dumb and very weak. Physically, but mostly mentally. Now, I would never ever even imagine that being obese is healthy, or acceptable to tell someone else it is. That's simply negligence and projected insecurity. Just let me say, I do not claim them. food addiction, life complacency, victim mentality, and more than anything, obesity is not the same as autism. I'm just French. FR might not stand for French here, I'm not sure. Second Price Auctions replies, as an autistic person currently working to lose weight and get fit, one of the biggest things that's helped me is to work with my texture sensitivities rather than against them. For example, with vegetables that I normally couldn't eat, I'll chop them into tiny pieces for a soup, or even put them in the blender with other ingredients, and it becomes fine for me. Having added obstacles does make things harder, but it doesn't mean that you suddenly have no agency. From Crispy Seaweed. It's a cartoon of some dogs. We would never expect to squeeze a Labrador down to the size of a Chihuahua, and yet we still expect humans to all be the same size. Motor Rad Rider replies, so apparently a Labrador has the same skeleton as a Chihuahua? All the rest is just fat? I learn something every day. Love Dove Bunny brings us, product to avoid, warning, fat phobia, ignorance, stupidity. As this evening as I was scrolling, an ad for pet beds popped up on my home. But instead of describing the virtues of the bed, it offered a poorly written rant about the dangers of pet obesity, quoting a vet who founded the Anti-Pet Obesity Foundation or some such nonsense. I don't remember the exact name. Not content to confine their hackneyed scare tactics to plump pooches, they went on to talk about why fat humans are in denial of their weight. What in heaven's name does this have to do with pet beds? I would caution anyone who believes this is not appropriate to avoid the beds and avoid liking their page, and if anyone is feeling feisty, to go over and make a comment about how inappropriate that post is. I don't want to link it, because linking helps them with their SEO. Inside Sympathy replies, I blame pet obesity on the pursuit of cuteness. I have a corgi, and a woman at the dog park said that I was underfeeding him because corgis are supposed to be chunky, and I need to take better care of my animal. I was like, corgis are herding dogs, you mouth breather. They aren't supposed to be chunky. And she was just like, well, they are cuter when they are. Sagita Luminous adds, I rescued an obese corgi. He was pushing 50 pounds when we took him in. His stomach dragged on the floor. We got him down to just under 30, and it was clear he felt worlds better. Once we took him to the dog wash, an employee said, audibly surprised,
It's rare to see a corgi with a waistline.
I still consider that a badge of honor. And that brings us straight into DeChonkers. The first post is brought to us by Purry Kit Kat. It's a picture of a brown cat with a white belly. He's sunning himself, I think, on some concrete. Mithril just found out she's 5 pounds overweight. Sad. Today starts the weight loss journey. The next one comes to us from Rachel Laurel. I think we've seen this dog before. It's a light brown dog with like a black mouth and nose and ears. It shows a picture of him 4 months ago when he was pretty obese, and today. His name is Jazzy Morum. He's gone from 115 pounds to 81. Jazzy is running and jumping just in time for her 10th birthday tomorrow. We love you, Jazzy. 16 pounds to go. The next one's from Oh My Dog, Cheesecake. It's a picture of a gray cat resting on a blanket. Well, the vet has confirmed that we can stand to lose 2 to 3 pounds, currently at 12.5 pounds, and the recommended is 9 to 10 pounds, with a suggested calorie intake of 180. Our journey starts tomorrow, and I feel for her. Sad. From Garbage Gremlins, it's a picture of a small brown dog. A successful DeChonk, 15 pounds to 10, a healthy weight for him. And here's another picture of him hanging out with some other dogs. Dodger Ate It brings us a picture of their black dog with a white belly. It's one of those little dogs, but I couldn't tell you the breed. In the first picture, he's pretty obese, and the second picture, he looks pretty healthy. Cheez-Its and mac and cheese was his diet at his first home. Bribed him to eat dog food with Parmesan. Amazing what 5 pounds looks like on little dogs. Thank you to everyone who helps support me to make these videos, and to everybody who comes and watches. A special thanks goes out to Hannah McNally, Carl Williams, and Sarah Ahern for their generous support. That's the end of the video. If you liked it, consider clicking like and subscribe. If you really liked it, consider becoming a member. As always, there should be more FatLogic videos every other Monday, and on the weekends I'll be looking at videos made by fat logicians.